one other thing, Joshua, that um, honestly kind of got overlooked this past weekend. On Friday, the XR Super Series released their 2024 schedule. They had already had some dates earmarked, if you will, and some specific tracks for the schedule. But on Friday, they released the, I guess, full schedule with some added races that we weren't expecting, some purse changes, and a new format, if you will, for crowning their champion that I think is quite interesting. So we got, what was it? How many races? 16 races, I believe, for the XR Super Series in 2024?
Correct. Yeah. And so, well, remembering the XR Super Series when they came out early with their 2024 schedule, like back in like August or September, and it was kind of like, here's our dates, this is when we're racing, and I'm sure they were hoping the other national tours to schedule around them. It was, I think, 6 weekends. Then when the other national tour schedules came out, World of Outlaws, Lucas Oil, and there were conflicts, they didn't schedule around those weekends on both schedules. Kind of made everyone wonder, what's XR going to do? Because that's what the role that XR has played the past couple years, is being, a limited number of races where you see the top guys from Lucas Oil, the top guys from World of Outlaws all come together, right? And race in these limited number of races. And it worked. I think it did that. You had, the top from guys from each tour coming together, and it was mostly weeknight races to make that happen. And I think
Right,
the guys at XR wanted to try to be a little bit more, get on weekends, right? To
right.
have weekend
More
races, and
traditional.
they actually expanded their schedule to 16 races. Most of those dates that they originally had are still on there, but they also made it where their points championship, of those 16 races, you're only counting your best 10, right? So there's conflicts. Their opener at Ultimate Motorsports Park, February 23rd and 24th, conflicts with Lucas Oil,
Oh, yeah.
the Lucas Oil Series at
Right.
Golden Isle
Golden Isle.
Speedway. Yep.
Golden Isle
Um,
2.0.
so that's going to eliminate your Lucas Oil regulars from competing with you. Their third would be their fifth and sixth event, so their third weekend in Minnesota at, I may be saying this wrong, but Ogilvy, I believe, Ogilvy Raceway, conflicts with the World of Outlaws, and there's some other conflicts there. And that also, just in case people are wondering, is the only conflict with the Hunt
With
the
Hunt the
Front Super
Front,
Dirt
yeah.
Series.
And
Um,
it should be added that a driver does not have to race. It's not a you race the whole schedule and only count your top 10 like Lucas Oil at Speed Weeks. You only count your best six out of however many, but you got to race them all, I believe, all the points races
right. Yeah.
for that to work for you. You can show up to 10 races, and those 10 are your 10 races.
What it does is it allows guys to run their other series and fit in the XR schedule when it works for them. And if, as long as they get in their 10 races, they have a chance to to
Compete
be
for the payout,
compete for the
which
championship, the points fund.
is, I believe, it's $50,000 for
So
the champion this year.
it is, and that's another discussion point. Is we're not seeing, we're used to XR, these 100,000 to win shows, right? fifty
Right.
thousand to win, 100,000 to win. 300 something $1,000 points fund that paid 24 positions,
Mm-hmm.
and paid, I think it was 75,000 to the champion Bobby Pierce this year. We don't have that this year with their points fund. It is almost identical to the Hunt the Front Super Dirt Series points fund. It's 50,000 to the champion, 25,000, 15 to third, 10 for fourth, 7,500, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. It's a total $127,000, $500 to the top 10 drivers. So that's, I think that's solid for what what they're offering to drivers, and what they're with that, not making them go to all 17, 16 races. There says 17 races on here, so I'm wondering if there's one that's not on the schedule yet, because on their info sheet. But there's only 16 dates on the schedule they released, so I don't know if there's one more or not. But anyway, point being is, yeah, that's not something you see very often, and again, when they put their schedule out, and then the Lucas Oil World of Outlaw schedules came out and had conflicts, it's like, what's XR going to do? I didn't see, be honest, I don't know that many people saw them doing this,
Right.
right? Doing the, kind of just count your best ones. But I think it could work for them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to
It
cause some situations, some races might not get the correct, the XR type feel that we're used to. But I think overall, it definitely, it allows XR to do what it wants to do, to have its more traditional events on weekends, right? While not making guys choose either them
Right.
or the national
In
tours.
that aspect, it's great for drivers in that you can kind of race when it fits for you, right? I mean, obviously, it'd behoove you to be at as many of these races as you can if you're going to try to compete for their title. But you don't have to be there a certain weekend. You can go to this other race, or you can run this other series. For example, a guy could run the whole Hunt the Front series, which is a $50,000 um, winners points share, or the champion gets $50,000 on our series, and they could only miss one weekend, two races of the XR series. So there's $100,000 you could be racing for in theoretically 35 events, I guess, between our series and the XR series.
Well,
Um,
so our series is 24 features, right?
mm-hmm.
Over there's 25 nights. The East Alabama is a doubleheader. But yeah, in theory, you could run our 24 races and 10 XR races for 34 races. And now that's I'm sure we're going to lose some races
Yeah.
to weather,
Mm-hmm.
like so I think a guy could run around 30 to 35 races and potentially win $100,000 in points fund money between the Hunt the Front Super Dirt Series and the XR Super
Right.
Series.
Certainly 40
That's not
races
bad.
or less. Yeah. A guy.
Certainly, yeah. I
Yeah.
think I think 40 or less is and honestly, like, if the guys that want to run 100, nights a year and they could run for the, Lucas Oil points fund or the World of Outlaws point championships and the 50,000 from XR is just an added bonus, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think it fits there. But I think I kind of like this. I'm not going to lie that a guy like Brandon Overton or Tanner English or Chris Madden, if, Outlaws doesn't, he has trouble there early in the year. Someone like that, sees this as an opportunity to race more regionally,
Yeah.
but still chase
Or Davenport that hasn't committed to any series.
yeah, I mean, that would
We're
be
putting
nice
in
to see.
shameless
That
plugs
would be
here.
kinda good.
So, real quick, do you have Bobby Pierce repeating as the XR champion and having a chance? A guy like Bobby Pierce having a chance at winning 3 national tours: XR, Flow, World Outlaws, or Lucas Oil.
I mean, we're making predictions, I guess. I kind of want to wait and see who decides to run it because the one thing we haven't talked about is the race payouts.
Yeah,
We saw here's a perfect example. Kokomo last year was 100,000 to win race on a Monday,
you're right.
and it drew really good field, huge fans. This year, that's a 12,000 to win race.
Right.
Now, granted, it's 12,000 to start, or excuse me, 1,200 to
1,200.
start.
Well, I believe it
So.
paid 2,000 to start.
Mhm.
Was we went there to Kokomo after the Dream, and part of the big draw for going is it paid 2,000 is 100,000 to win, 2,000 to start, and we felt confident we could go make the show, and Joseph did $2,000. You know what I mean? Um, Whereas this year, not only is it only 12,000 wins, 1,200 start, yeah, we would be more tempted to, we got to get home and get ready for next weekend. You know what I mean?
Right.
Rather than going and racing on Tuesday night or whatever it is at Kokomo, still
Right.
12 hours from home.
It's the Monday, and it was the same thing like this past year. It's the Monday after the Dream, all right?
Right.
And so that's the question: is does that? I mean, 100,000 win show versus 12,000 win show is going to carry a lot less
Mm-hmm.
excitement and enthusiasm for those guys. Does a Bobby Pierce? I don't. I'd have to look what they have after that. I'm trying to think. Lucas Oil guys, I think, are going to Smoky Mountain. Think World of Outlaws maybe all I'm not sure, but point being is it may be we're talking about who making predictions. It's hard to know who thinks that show's worth running at right after running what 4 nights, I think,
Mm-hmm.
at the Dream
At
or
the
being
Dream.
there for 4 nights at
Right.
least. Think you're only racing 3. Um, Guys might be less inclined to go there.
Right.
And I think that is something XR is going to have to from the PR side is
Mm-hmm.
gonna battle with this schedule is we are used to seeing 100,000 to win shows with
And
XR, and I
everybody
think
being there, all the big names being
yes,
there.
and I think the way they positioned it when they put out their schedule last year early with only 6 dates, I mean, I know I did, but I think everyone anticipated that those were all going to be 100,000 to win shows,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I think that was kind of the expectation they set, and now you come out with this, and you've got your standard their purses are 12,000 to win on weekdays, Fridays included,
Yep.
1,200 to start, so that's still pretty good, and then 30,000
Yep.
to win, and I believe it said 3,000 to start for their
Yes.
Saturday shows.
Correct. 11, 12,000 to win, 1,200 to starts. 5, 30,000 to win, 3,000 starts. We should, in fairness, say that's still not terrible, not bad. I mean,
No,
that's still
it's
good
good.
payouts.
It
It's just they
is.
set the bar so high with the 100,000 to win. Um, purses, that is scaling back, but at the same time, it's still, a 30,000 to win, 3,000 to start race payout is still nothing to sneeze at, and still a lot of money on the line. Even 12,000 to win, 1,200 to start. It is it a little bit of a decrease in purse, yes, but at the same time, it's still not a bad deal for a driver to put enough of these races on his schedule to see what could happen as far as competing for the title.
There's a lot of questions around XR, what they were going to do this year. I think that's why you saw some guys like Davenport hold out
Hmm.
from going Lucas Oil. This could sway him. I don't know one way or the other. But I think this answers a lot of questions. Raises there's some negatives with it on the payout and not being quite what we expected or the points fund. But ultimately, I think it's a solid schedule, decent points fund for the amount of racing, and very unique with the only counting 10 races. I think you're going to see. It's going to be interesting to see who runs it,
Right.
who's there, and going to create
Who's
some
working on
excitement
getting enough
and drama.
races to have 10 good ones and be the
Right.
champion?